set this up with tripod?
What?
You want to set this up with tripod?
Okay.
I can be up here monitoring this because I probably want to be on my laptop anyways.
Okay, sounds good. I'll just send off. So you'll be right next to it. I'll just send off.
Yeah.
For my rides.
Kevin, you have a plate for this?
You can use remember my finger?
There's just so much shit up here. And you'll just do that.
I'm gonna do an end up. I have another one. Each bag has a 2 pieces. That's a rodent when it's happening. I would definitely.
The last year has been definitely crazy for people in Web3 and founders alike. My name is Supreme. I'm head of platform at Future Proof Ventures. We're a venture fund that started in 2014 that invests in distributed technology, so blockchain, AI, and IoT. We're currently on our third fund and located right here in Miami. So I'll let our fellow panelists introduce themselves.
I'm Jeff Marsilio, CEO and co-founder of Nifties. We do large-scale interactive NFT programs like The Matrix, and Looney Tunes, and recently Game of Thrones. Before founding Nifties, I was at the NBA. Partner with drop at either like physical locations, restaurants, art galleries, conferences, or we do like Pokemon Go as scavenger hunts to like just make a more fun, gamified distribution model. James plug, we're doing like a Miami Active scavenger hunt right now. So if you download the app, collect like 3 of 6 Miami Active collectibles across. I think most of them are in Winwood, so you probably collect in a couple minutes. There's going to be a loot box at the closing ceremony that you can unlock, and we'll be 100 prizes. Download it.
Hey, what's up? My name is Ozzy. I'm the founder of Zoe. Zoe is essentially a messaging protocol. You can think of it as a Web3 Discord/Telegram. You can log into your wallet, connect to other public keys, you can pay in the app as well. And it's built on a distributed architecture using federated servers. So mostly just generally a Web3 Discord with native Web3 capabilities.
Great. Hello everyone, I'm Jessica Seaton and I'm the founder of DeFi Trends, and we do Web3 analytics, so we help you parse through blockchain data to find alpha, and currently we work with institutional clients to give them access to our API so they can make better investment decisions. And my background is data science, and I've worked in multiple organizations in finance and building projects to integrate big data and just decided to make policy decisions.
My favorite part about meeting people in Web3 is hearing how they got into the space, because I feel like everyone always has a very interesting story. So I would love to hear about what brought you down the Web3 rabbit hole, and what made you love it so much that you wanted to found a company in the space.
Yeah, so I started building my own trading bots and found that there wasn't really good, accurate data, even though blockchain data is immutable and open source. So I went out to fix this problem. And of course, there's a lot of providers out there, but when you're a data scientist and you're always looking at data accuracy or a lot of data integrity questions, you find that there's a lack of that. And so I found that there's a lot of room for improvement in the space, and you needed a really good data scientist with a lot of data integrity to fix this problem, and that's how I got into it. And I strive to make remote access to data easier, so kind of democratize access to data.
Yeah, so I actually got into it in high school. I used to play a game called RuneScape, which is an MMORPG. And I basically got really rich and really popular in the game, and then I sort of want to exit. I wanted to sell my GP, and when I go on these sort of peer-to-peer trading platforms, there was a currency, Bitcoin. It's like 22. So that was like my first foray into this, and I traded a little bit, and then I was like, am I trading this for another in-game currency? Like when I first saw Bitcoin, I was like, is this an in-game currency? What is this? Afterwards, I was sort of in this libertarian, like philosophical journey, and sort of discovered the immutability principles and the self-sovereign principles of Web3 and just Bitcoin in general. So it was more of a calling philosophically to build something in that. And I actually tried to build what I'm building now back in 2017, but the infrastructure to build peer-to-peer messaging protocol was just non-existent then. But the infrastructure does exist now, so that's why I can sort of continue to work on this idea.
Yeah, so honestly, before Dropverse, I wasn't very deep into the space, other than having a Coinbase account with some Bitcoin or whatever. But then as NFTs started getting popular, 2020, that's what really piqued my interest. My background was in like media entertainment, I think. NFTs. I saw a lot of potential from that entertainment point of view, whether it's like helping creators monetize, just like honestly fun gamified ways to like improve like Web2 games, media, and I don't know, it just really got me deep into the space. I think it started with Top Shot, which I feel is like a pretty normal thing, just because it's like such an easy onboarding experience for Web2 users. Then from there, kind of got the natural snowball effect of just going really deep into NFTs. And then, yeah, as me and my co-founder were like in that process, we started seeing some of the ways we could improve the onboarding experience for Web2 users, making it more fun distribution process versus like, you know, hopping on Discord, like the first one of 10,000 like and that's kind of how Dropverse was born. So yeah, I mean, kind of just the NFT entertainment angle is like really what drove me to this space personally.
I started investing personally in the last bull market, and I quickly discovered that I was an investing genius. And then in early 2018, it all started crashing down, and I discovered that actually I was an investing idiot. But I was working at the MBA, and in that process, in that journey of quickly discovering that maybe I wasn't so great at investing, I learned a lot about the technology. And there were other people like me at the MBA. I was, as I said before, I was in a position where I led a lot of the digital business, a lot of the emerging technologies. So we created a small working group to focus on how this technology might impact the MBA's business. And we identified 5 or 6 different avenues that we could explore. And the one that was going to have the least internal friction was digital collectibles. The one that I was actually most excited about at the time was membership and loyalty, because it was just really a hard nut to crack in a company like the MBA, which is really more of an ecosystem than one entity. And I was excited about the sort of distributed nature of blockchain and the opportunity to solve that problem. I didn't understand at the time that really those were two sides of the same coin. But we conducted a search of the ecosystem for the right partner to be our digital collectible partner. And we didn't actually find, back in 2018-19, a lot of great candidates. We narrowed it down to Dapper Labs and Consensus, 2 great companies. And of course, as everybody knows, this guy knows, we partnered with Dapper Labs, and they did an amazing job bringing the MBA into the Web3 space and creating a product that was easy enough for mainstream people to get involved in. So I had really very little to do with building the product, but I had a front row seat to how that all got created. And when I met my partners in Nifty's, decided, man, there's a huge opportunity to focus on not the speculative nature of NFTs, but the things that people can do with NFTs as fans of amazing brands and IPs. That's how we got started.
I knew you guys would have interesting answers, and you guys delivered. Piggybacking off what you were saying, Ozzy, so I think building in Web3 is a lot more difficult than Web2 because a lot of the dev tooling is very new, and the space is constantly changing. Also, there's so many bugs that people don't find out until months later. So what do you think has been the hardest part about building in Web3 versus Web2? And what are some lessons that you learned from shipping your first Web3 product? So I would like Ozzy to start.
Yeah, so I think one of the main, I think it's still a problem, is in the normal product building world, you have very good attribution models. So if you send an ad, you can trace the life cycle of where you found this customer and when they sort of close. In the Web3 world, everyone just says connect wallet, and there's no one-to-one communication you can have with the customer. So you're sort of like, you can't have recurring customers. You can't attribute, oh, this campaign led to this many influx of users. I'm obviously trying to attempt to change that with my messaging protocol. That's one of the sort of big issues that I think are still a blocker for Web3 companies to scale properly. And then I think if I were to go back, I think one thing I would suggest to all of you, myself included, is sort of in the previous world, everyone would talk about MVP, minimum viable product, how quickly can we launch a product. What I would really give advice, and something I should have done much more at, was MVC, minimum viable community. how quickly can you bootstrap a community that loves your idea, loves your product, is a super fan, will share it on Twitter. You've cultivated this culture within your Discord or wherever community management tool you've created to create sort of to bootstrap that early network effect. So I really focus on that communal interaction that Web3 really powers.
Yeah, for me, I'm also in tooling. So you have to pretty much make all of your tooling yourself, since we're allowing developers, or right now working with analysts and hedge funds to understand and integrate our data. So we actually built our own tools for our own use because there wasn't any out there, given that we said the data reliability issue is there, but there were platforms like Node as a Service, which we piggybacked on top of instead of running our own nodes in the beginning, which cost a lot of money. So we were using these developer tools in a way, which is running an own node, using other servers, and then we moved on to doing it yourself. But anyone in the data space, I would say, should try to get to the first product the quickest with all the means possible, and then start getting away from third-party dependencies, which is what every startup intends to do. And so that's what we kind of did in our evolution of the company.
Let me just add one more thing before I think it's pretty important. Basically, when you're creating your products, really think about the incentive systems you're building out. In crypto, there's a lot of mercenary capital. So they're like very PvP. They're here to like sort of, if you're offering APYs or anything else, you come in, they'll take and leave. Make sure when you're creating your products and your incentive mechanisms that you really consider, okay, who am I attracting to this? Who's gonna like, am I gonna just get like attacked with bots and like people trying to mint stuff and eviscerate my servers, or am I actually building long-term valuable customers?
And then also, the web tooling is constantly changing, but Web3 is also a space where the industry trends are changing like on a monthly, weekly basis what users are into. So how do you consider what an end user is currently talking about into your products? Or do you just kind of ignore what everyone's hyped over and just focus on building the product that you see fit? Since you guys are in the media industry, just how do you take this off?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we definitely do the latter. Like, we really need to consider what users want. It's changing so quickly too, especially in the NFT space. Like, I think originally NFTs were really almost like financial. People were just hoping to buy them and flip them immediately. Now that's died down in a good way, but people are now, they want NFTs that have utility, that they've used or that they're big fans of, like loyalty programs. And because we're just a distribution platform, like we feature different brands every week, all that stuff, we kind of have to know what people want in that given moment and say, yeah, we've been doing this for a year and it's probably changes every month, like what we think our users would like most. So we're constantly trying to stay plugged in. Community surveys, just like Twitter spaces. Honestly, the best way to stay up to date. I feel like it's much harder to stay informed. Personally, for me, when I'm in the space, because so much of my time is spent on like very narrow niche things, and just taking a step back to do stuff. So like listening to Twitter spaces or like meeting other people is probably the best way, because they can like hear what you're working on and like tell you some cool news that they've heard. So you just almost have to block out time every day to just keep up with trends and like try and get it from other people who are crowdsourcing the same information.
Or Twitter all the time.
Twitter.
Scrape Twitter. Yeah.
You guys made so many good points. I feel like we could talk about these questions for an hour alone. I was just thinking about the tooling part of the discussion. It extends to services too. I won't name companies, but we were working with an email provider for the first year of our business. You get pretty deeply integrated, and then they decided they weren't going to support Web3 anymore, and we had 30 days to change. Good luck finding a bank that will support you as a Web3 business. There are just so many things that we take for granted as entrepreneurs that can't be taken for granted in the Web3 space, from the tooling to the services to everything else. You're doing a lot on your own. And then to the question of the community and feedback, it is such a, maybe this will sound like I sound like a cop-out, but there's definitely a balance to be struck, because the space, as you said, is moving so rapidly, and there are so many perverse incentives, among, to Ozzy's point, among people who are thinking about NFTs maybe as financial instruments versus as something that they can use. There's a lot of noise around the signals, and if you are reacting all of the time to the current signals, it will be, and it takes long to build these things without all of the tooling and servicing, as you mentioned. You can end up spinning your wheels a lot. So you don't want to be knocked off course, but you do want to be listening and thinking about where the puck is likely to be going. That's kind of easy and abstract for me to say, but I'm not sure that there's a better way to think about it than that, personally.
Okay, so now that we're in a bear market, is it almost like a blessing in disguise because you guys can focus heads down and work? And how has the bear market affected your companies, if they have?
It's never a blessing when there's just less money going around. So but there are certainly fewer pressures to keep up with the Joneses and to feel like you need to go capture territory. And honestly, I was feeling that way during the bull market, and I think that I was probably wrong about that right from the beginning, but it's just so easy to get swept up in that feeling like this is a competition, this is a race, we really need to stay ahead of things. There's also, frankly, at this moment, I think, there's more concentration among the early adopters than there's been in the last couple of years. So if you're thinking about what the future of NFTs can be, you might be getting more signal about what they are right now from the people who are just the most hardcore. So you do have to be thinking ahead to when people come back. But if you can do that, if you can think about like when the more mainstream community comes back, then I do think it's a little bit easier to focus. And then finally, working with brands, they have not gone away. Actually, they kind of flinched in the summer, like, ooh, is this all scam? And then they came back in a much more thoughtful way, and it does sort of remind me of like 2018, 2019 NBA, when we all got crushed, but learned about the space and decided to come back in, in a thoughtful way as the NBA, and look where that got us.
I think it took a lot of the noise out of this. Oh, we have to do more. Our competitor just launched this. Let's go launch it now. Now we're very thoughtful in what we do, and we build for. In my case, like we have a retail side as well, but now we have time to work with B2B clients and really understand what they need, and then go transfer to more consumable with our retail crowd.
Yeah, I would say blessing is a strong word. I think obviously we'd love for it to be a bear market if we had to pick, but I think had we had launched in a great bull market, we would have gotten a lot of like false signals from product, things like that, just because some people in the States, you could launch an NFT with nothing behind it and sell 10,000 a day. Those last, and if we wanted to build a long-lasting product, I think that would have been harder. And as I said, we have brands on one side, users on the other. Like we mentioned, brands, we've seen continually increasing interest. There's always more brands coming out. I think that hasn't diminished. The growth is still there. The user side's been a little tougher. We were in beta for a year and launched out in December, and I have no doubt had it been December a year ago, we would have seen much better numbers. But again, our early users are probably better quality than they would have been, and I think probably a better starting point. But yeah, it's tough. If I had to pick bear market or not, probably wouldn't pick bear market.
I would personally say that, so bear markets are for builders, bull markets are for speculators, but sort of the inverse is true if you're trying to raise money versus not raise money. But one thing I'll say is building in the bear market is probably the best time to ever build. So if you sort of look at the cyclical nature of it, it's sort of like 3 to 4 years is a cycle. If you're building the bear market, you get a cohort of users, perfect your product, continue to build, onboard more users, bull market comes. That is when you truly shine, when you either launch a token, and that's like throwing fuel onto whatever you're building already. So if you're, I would say, like if you're going to build a product, this is literally the best time to build it, when the bull market does, and it will come back again, and the money will appear again. But this is the best time to be heads down, build out the core users, and continue to scale slowly.
I think that the bear market is survival of the fittest, which I actually agree with, because there was just a lot of noise, people doing projects that they had nothing to do with because of their background, and I think for me, it's better. And there is actually money I just raised, so you guys don't freak out. There's money if you're building a product that actually has utility and you have users, and there's a need for it, which I think should be at all times. You always should be building something that someone needs. So I do like the bear market.
Why don't I ask one more question and I'll open it up to questions. So besides navigating Web3, which is difficult on its own, you guys are also navigating how to be founders. So what is something that you wish you knew about being a founder, and what advice would you give to aspiring founders of Web3?
Have a lot of founder friends. Great friends of mine, so it's great.
Do you lean on them for advice?
Definitely, yeah. I have Kat, who actually Ozzy, I met at Ozzy's house in Houston. I call up, oh my God, I just got a term sheet, this is good, this is bad, and I call up my other friend, and it's this, ecosystem of asking around, because if you're doing it by yourself and it's your first time, I don't think you really know. Now I know, but now I also help my other founder friends that are doing it for the first time. So I think, number one, having founder friends, it doesn't even matter if it's in the same sector. It really helps you out.
So if you're looking to become a founder, call and guess it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I guess I sort of knew intellectually, but now I know in the deepest emotional way, is that it's a huge part of my job is psychiatry. My own psychiatry, but more so just the psychiatry of being a leader of people. And especially as you're navigating a very volatile market where you're on top of the world one moment and then you feel like maybe you're on the bottom of the world the next moment. You spend a lot of time keeping people motivated and moving in the same direction and thinking about how people work together. I had been a leader, before, but when you are starting a company, you don't really have a cultural operating system in place the way that you do when you come from an institution. Like the MBA, mostly for better and sometimes for worse, has its culture. And as a leader, I can take my eye off the ball for a little while, but the culture will be there to keep people moving in the same direction. As a founder, you are the cultural operating system until it starts to run on its own. So you really can't take your eye off that ball. And it can be personally a little bit emotionally draining, but when you get it right and everything's kind of chugging along, it's also super gratifying.
Yeah, one, I would just double down on the founder friends thing. I think there's a lot of cool communities you can join, like React and stuff like that, but if you've never done it before, someone you can pop a quick question on it is so valuable. The other thing, which I kind of knew and everyone would tell you, but underestimated when I found it, was just how important hiring was and to take your time while also going fast. It's just so tempting early on when you're doing so much work that you're either not good at, like on the design work. I'm not a good designer, but someone has to do it, and to hire a designer, stuff like that, and you want to bring someone on, but a bad hire is just can kill you, or take up so much time, or take up so much money. And a good hire can absolutely accelerate you. So just really, really focusing on that and spending a lot of time on job descriptions, people, background info, all that stuff's super important. And I'm sure you hear it, but just double down on it 100%.
And just to kind of further that, if you do have the wrong person, let him or her go as quickly as possible. At a place like the MBA, I would try to develop someone that you don't, as a startup founder, you don't really have time for that. So you should cut them loose, and you're doing them a favor too.
I think some things I'll say, not to both of the things, obviously being in a network of other founders is an invaluable toolkit. Adding on to sort of this thing about hiring, when you're building a company, you're essentially building the machine that builds the machine. So when you're building this machine, the process, really focus on sort of the operating system that you can build that can automate, and sort of the coordination tools that your whole team uses, so that there's a lot of less friction for early teams. Everyone has to be a superstar. You have to have multiple personal skills, especially in pre-seed seed. So making sure the tooling, there's no information silos. Everyone can move as fast as possible. One other thing I'd say, which is sort of tangential, but I think is very valuable nonetheless, is when you're raising, right before you raise, when you form your company, donate a portion of your company to your mom and dad or something. This is a sort of a hint a seasoned founder gave me, but basically for tax implications and sort of valuation and like making a ton of money, this helps out a lot. So I would highly suggest if you are considering starting a company, when you form your company, to donate, specifically donate to someone you trust, such that when your valuation just goes higher, you reap a lot more points.
Yeah. And it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So taking care of yourself, I would say, is the best, because another lesson that I didn't know is that work never ends. You think it ends, but you're always thinking about it when you're doing everything. So taking care of yourself so you can learn more.
One more thing I'd add is if you're in crypto, you probably know Twitter is sort of the hotspot. If you're a founder, I would really suggest spending probably 3 hours a week creating a personal brand. So you're sort of the reflection of your company. You want to sort of maximize your image relative to your company. So taking 3 hours a week, commenting on founders, commenting on niche within Twitter. There's a lot of ways to optimize your sort of whole Twitter experience. I set up like automation and bots and everything, but highly suggest creating a personal brand for yourself.
And if you're not good at it, you can always hire someone for you. So let's open it up to audience questions.
So I've been a founder for like a year and a half, solo founder. I'm a software development background, so I just been building on the product and coding for like really a year. Pretty much last year I spent the entirety of my time building an MVP, and kind of in the long run, like you said, I haven't built a community. So what is your recommendations to a solo founder on building a community? Because I have a product now, we found it, I think, quite well, and I'm actively trying to build a community. I'm trying to like code dealing with people, making Twitter posts, and I'm at the point where I have a little bit of capital, so it doesn't have to all be organic, but just right now in the bear market, where can I go to find the reservoir of users that are into crypto?
Yeah.
I don't have to convert.
So early on, you're still gonna have to do things that don't scale. So that means cold DMing, reaching out. So some things I'd suggest is I would suggest the conference run. So look at the top conferences. I highly suggest the Denver, very technical conference. Like this is like a religious mecca. Like everyone's going there. And when you're in these group chats, when you're in a lot of Telegram group chats, you already have a mutual relation. Hey, I'm in this group chat with you. I'm working on this product. Cold DM, multiple formats. So on Twitter, on Telegram, and you also find these focal points where you can add value. So the moment you're doing these cold DMs or anything, start off with value and then share what you're working on and how that might tie into the value provided.
Yeah, I'd say one thing is trying to find the absolute narrowest group of users with the most value from the product. No matter how useful it is, start there and just get like 1 or 2 big names. And even if it's like 10, 20 people, like get them going, it starts compounding really quickly when you get that like really early group. So yeah, I mean depending on the product, but just like the absolute narrowest you can find really good out there.
I would also just add, if you're using other tools to build your product, for example, I had a friend who's building a product using Chainlink Europe, and he kind of just reached out to Chainlink saying, hey, I'm using your tool to build this product, and they wrote an article about what he's building, and then you kind of piggyback off different communities. Like I know the Scale community is really like, they're just so out there. So if you're like using Scale, they can write about it and then, push your product forward too. And then afterward, I recommend talking to Monica over there. She's head of community for Upstream and has built a huge community, so maybe she can offer you some additional tips as well.
We're partnering with blockchains as well.
Yeah, I'm building a Polygon. Do you guys know Polygon?
Yeah, so if you just, so the Chainlink project, they also work with Polygon, and we literally just like sent them an email saying like, hey, we're working on this, and they did like a write-up and tweeted about it too. So it's like, they obviously want to show the developers are using their products, so sometimes it's also just partnering with those tools.
So I have a question about reputation. I thought it was great what you said, Ozzy. It's kind of self-interest because I work from startups to build out their exposure to audiences through PR and stuff. But when we're in the bear market, I've been through others, we're always saying, head down, you've got to build. People, I think, forget to build the reputation. So that was really good. You're saying you put it aside time for the personal brand. I wonder if there are other things that you know work, or even maybe avoid because they don't work at this stage? How do you perceive building a reputation in the bear market?
So I'll tell you what sort of the system I built after myself, which I've done a lot of automation on and a lot of like systems. So for example, I'm sort of building a messaging platform, but I'm targeting DAOs first. So crypto native community, and they're looking for a Web3 replacement for Discord. I'm sort of setting myself as an authoritative figure. So the first thing I do is I teach people how to best use Discord, because Discord is a hellscape for notifications. How to best use Telegram. It's also sort of, if you don't manage it, it can get wild. Early on, providing value, and basically, I have this routine where I will comment 20 times a day on Twitter posts, every single day, no matter what. I spend time, I do it nonstop, because I know that is where my users live. Somehow, one comment they'll see, they'll like it, they go on my profile, go on my app, that's a funnel. So keep the, so that's sort of one of the approaches I'll take. I think Twitter is like a gold mine, and there are so many tools. I have tools that, so hive.social is one. You can use that, you can find, I can put in her profile, it'll tell me everyone who's related, like who's like a similar character to her. Oh, she's my ideal profile, right? These are the ideal people that look like her, I'll target these people. So if you're in crypto, you need a Twitter presence, like there's just no way.
Hey, thanks for taking the time, everyone. I've been at, and we've got a challenge in that a lot of our marketing kind of ends up being seen by Web2 native people that don't have private wallets yet. And because we work in music, I work in Web3 music, my background's in the music industry, it's really hard to get most people that our marketing reaches about from artists to understand what a private wallet is and the value of that. I'm just curious how you folks are tackling this challenge. It's like, I feel like there's this gap portal between like Web2 and Web3. Are you guys exploring custodial experiences? I'm sorry, I missed the intro, so I don't know where you guys actually work, but just curious how you guys think about this.
Yeah, I would say, so we work a lot with Web2 brands and target Web2 users. And we definitely went the route also of abstracting away a lot of the crypto infrastructure. So custodial wallets, all that. So when you sign up for the app, it automatically just creates a wallet, has an ID to it. You know, if you don't know anything about crypto, you can kind of use it, get most of the experience. If you are like crypto native, you can transfer out to your external wallet, all that, get the benefits of that as well. But you're right, I think wallet creation specifically is like, yeah, so the biggest hurdle for people trying to get into Web3, and NFTs in particular in our case. So if you can just like get that down to, you know, 1 or 2 steps, or like abstract away completely, that's a huge difference. I think Dapper did a really good job of that with just Google login and stuff. So I think getting to the point where Web2 users are like wanting to make their own MetaMask is probably very, very far away. So if you are like getting users now, you need to like abstract that whole process away.
And we at Nifty's, we've been sort of obsessed with abstracting away the complexity while also not sacrificing all the things that do make these things important, you know, NFTs important. When you sign up for Nifty's, you get a non-custodial wallet through Magic automatically attached to your email address, but you can also connect to your MetaMask and things like that. You know, you can pay with credit card on Nifty's. You can also pay with crypto. Most of the transactions are at least mostly on-chain. Excuse me, all sales transactions are on-chain, but some of the interactivity is a mix. What we have discovered, however, is that as the market shifted into what we're now calling a bear market, the trends have kind of reversed. Like more and more people are using MetaMask on NFTs, more and more people are paying with crypto. So I would consider, if you're trying to solve the problem now, I would consider that maybe it's a marketing challenge and not a product challenge, and that you should be trying to focus on solving problems for people who are really active in the space and already kind of understand the basics. Because if you have to both convince people that blockchain matters and convince them that your app matters, you've got your work cut out for you, I'm sure. And your marketing dollars are going to be kind of stretched.
Yeah, I also look into like, I'm not sure how you use your app, but there's like Magic Link, there's Web3 they sort of let you log in and assign public private keys with just an email or phone number. So instead of them having to manage custodial wallets, I think that's what we do as well, so that you can log in with a wallet, we can log in with a phone number and email.
Any other questions?
Can you explain a bit more what the NFTs does in the MBA and like the benefits the fans have?
Yeah, so I don't, as I said, I helped to get that started.
Yeah.
That's with another company called Dapper Labs.
Right.
And I can tell you that when we began the program or the project, it was in a different time where we thought of digital collectibles as almost like skeuomorphic versions of their physical counterparts. And one of the accidental insights that we had was that video could be a new form of that, right? So we were thinking in terms of basketball cards, which I've got in a shoebox in my closet at home, a physical thing, you rarely look at them, let alone show them off, let alone do anything. So we were thinking at the beginning, like, well, let's create a new version of these, and they'll be video. And actually, the reason that they were video was because we couldn't do basketball cards because we had a basketball card partner. So it just so happened that that moved us in the direction of video. I was the head of licensing video, and we could do it, and Top Shot was born, and it was successful in that way. Our partners at Dapper Labs understood NFTs better, and they understood that you could gamify it, and you could have utility and things like that. And so we started on that journey, but it wasn't built from the beginning with that in mind. And I think in some ways it suffered for that because it started as a digital collectible thing that utility was brought into and gamification was brought into. I personally think that they've done a pretty good job of that, but. Now, if you were starting an NBA Top Shot, you'd probably start from the beginning with like really in-depth interactivity and gamification. It would carry utility across the league and so forth. One of the challenges, and I hear, we work with big brands and Nifties too, and our fans and customers are like, well, why don't, if I own this thing, why don't I just get like free HBO Max year round? And the economics don't really work great for our partners that way. It's like an NFT just entitles you to free stuff forever, number one. And number two, companies aren't really set up that way, right? They are much more siloed, and it's, there are little power centers across these companies, and they can't, no individual at the level of actually executing deals at a company like the NBA or Warner Brothers has the prerogative to say, this NFT will give you free HBO for a lifetime, and you'll be able to go to our theme parks, and you'll get free merch, and there's just no individual person like that. So it's what Nifty's has been focused on has been building infrastructure that allows for what we call utility at scale. Interactivity built into programs and almost gamifies them or gives you stuff to do as you collect that doesn't depend on little pockets of people at different organizations just giving you free stuff all the time. And I'm sorry, I traveled a far distance from your original question. I think the NBA is trying to attach utility from various parts of the organization. They are pretty deeply integrated with Dapper Labs now after having done the program for a couple of years. But I think real utility at scale will come from software.
Right.
So this was originally off topic, but since you raised it about the trading cards, I'm really interested in digital.
Digital, yeah,
like
me too.
PHYGTAL, physical and digital. So I understand like the history, but where's it going? What should we be building now that would be good for the next bull market? So now that we have to have the time. And I'm also, I know you mentioned the retail side as well. We host all the video game developer groups in South Florida, so a lot of our gaming community is really interested in the digital aspect as well. So I really just, it's an open question, but what should we look at in the digital space?
I'm really fascinated by this category too, because everybody wants utility, and for whatever reason, if an NFT has some sort of physical counterpart, that's like automatic utility. Like that's something we count that. Like it's kind of in a way going like back to reality with it. But it is also a distribution opportunity. Most retail is of physical goods, and there's all kinds of physical retail setup in the real world and digital that NFTs could potentially tap into. But the question, and I have some of my own answers, but the question that we have to answer collectively is like, what is the relationship between the physical item and the digital item? Because nobody has solved how they move together. If the physical always unlocks the digital, and I'm not so sure, like if you just have then that's just like, what is that Disney product? You don't need an NFT for that, is what I'm trying to say. So you need to there needs to be a relationship between the physical and the digital that recognizes that they will often not be together under the same ownership. And I don't know exactly what that's, I mean, I have some ideas for what that solution is, but I think that's
one idea.
NFTs as being as redeemables for physical goods, which give the physical goods liquidity.
Like a trading cards type thing.
Yeah, so but like, you know, I buy something, I get an NFT instead of the thing. You know, I buy a physical good, but instead of getting the physical good, I get an NFT. I can trade the NFT until I'm ready to redeem it for the physical item. That would be one. Yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe concert tickets.
Yeah, well, that's another one. It's like,
That's true.
that could just be digital.
Right, to the point.
Right.
But that's one where obviously that was one of the 5 or 6 that we explored at the MBA, which can also be an NFT. And that's one of the things I like about that is how it can transform into something after you've used it.
Yeah.
Right? It becomes a souvenir after you've used it.
I think one thing I'd add to is clothing. So point of sale. That point of sale can be verified. That clothing is now attached to this NFT. There's a wallet. You can sort of represent ownership. For example, like if I have a plain T-shirt with a monkey for like Solana Monkey DAO, I can make that, or I can go to the like Monkey DAO Discord, use their link, buy it, and they verify, hey, you are a true monk. You bought it from us. It's not some counterfeit. Here's an NFT for provenance and ownership. I think that is a pretty interesting use case. I'm personally excited about.
And gated, I mean, this is implied in what you just said, but gated commerce of physical goods is a really big opportunity, and there's lots of brands already exploring that.
Yeah, I know crypto packaged goods. I just got my fanny pack in the mail, and then the NFT as well. And their Telegram group is gated by the NFT. So I think we're out of time, so we have to wrap up here to set up for the next event. But we'll stick around if you guys have any further questions, and maybe you guys can swap ideas about digital. Okay, thank you guys all for coming out.
Great questions, everybody.
That's right. Thank you.
Somebody said.